Tonight, a stay-at-home order is on the way.
We're going to have further restrictions moving forward very, very quickly.
Just days after a province-wide shutdown was put in place, further restrictions will be announced tomorrow. We'll have all the details. Plus,
we don't have a plan, so we're going to have to figure something out.
This time, it's parents in Toronto left scrambling after it was announced all schools in the city will be switching to online learning with less than 24 hours notice. And
there's zero accountability.
There will be no charges laid against police in the death of Ijaz Chaudhry, the 62-year-old man who was shot and killed by an officer last summer. We'll have more on the SIU's ruling and reaction from his family. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We begin with breaking news. We learned just moments ago that more restrictions will be announced tomorrow, including a stay-at-home order. Now, Ali Chiasson has been following this for us. We'll go to her now. And Ali, what can you tell us?
Well, Kelda, according to our sources, this stay-at-home order will come into effect tomorrow at midnight. It will be province-wide and is expected to last up to 4 weeks. As for what is going to be allowed, we are hearing that non-essential retailers will have to close except for curbside pickup. Big box stores will be restricted to essential aisles like grocery and pharmacy. Kelda, this week it's just been a rumor that this could happen, the stay-at-home order, but now people can expect it. Have a listen.
Today we asked people how they feel about another stay-at-home order.
I don't mind it. I'm protecting myself. I'm going to continue to do that.
The high case count at 3,000 a day is enough to keep some people at home already. Those who can, that is.
I guess I feel like I'm sort of already living within the stay-at-home rules.
Also, we need to get out and then enjoying the park. Also, our mental health is important too, right?
Out of sync public messaging can also be mentally draining. Last week, for example, the Premier pulled the emergency brake and shut down the province, though malls were allowed to open. Today, Ford scolded mall goers.
You know, you go by Yorkdale, you couldn't get a parking space. You know, it was absolutely jam-packed. And I truly was hoping that, people wouldn't be going in there to the volume that we saw.
I support effective public health measures. I support what the public health officers in Toronto and Peel are saying, what the doctors in ICU units that are having to deal with the fallout from complete incompetence from this government.
Until vaccination catches up, which is not for a while yet, we have to do with the public health measures.
Regarding the public frustration with so many changes from one day to the next, the Premier says,
I respect that. And something, I don't even disagree with you. I don't disagree with other people. But folks, you can't just make a decision and hope it's going to stick for 2 weeks. This variant is moving hour by hour, day by day. So we have to move with it.
Confirmed to CBC News that the stay-at-home order is happening. You're also hearing of other measures that could be put in place. What are some of those?
That's right. So today the Premier said that everything was on the table, and we're hearing that also could be travel restrictions. Now, we don't know if that will include just between the hotspot regions like Toronto, Peel and York, or whether the travel restrictions between the regions would be province-wide. More details on that, as well as this stay-at-home order that we have confirmed to be in effect tomorrow at 12:01 midnight. We'll hear more information on that as well tomorrow. Send it back to you, Kelda.
Thanks so much, Ali. That's our Ali Chiasson reporting live for us from Queen's Park tonight. Now, Ontario saw another day of over 3,000 new COVID-19 cases, but another number hit a peak that we haven't seen in months. Now, that is the test positivity rate, the amount of tests in the province that are coming back positive for COVID-19. Now, today it is 8.9%, a number we haven't seen since the peak of Wave 2 back in early January. All schools in Peel Region switched to online learning today, and starting tomorrow, schools in Toronto will be following suit. The announcement was made today, catching many parents and teachers off guard, with some wondering why the decision wasn't made sooner to give them more time to prepare. Our Greg Ross has more.
Many parents at Perth Public School learned the news about schools closing as they were picking their kids up at the end of the day.
You don't expect to hear that from the crossing guard before you hear it a proper email or something else.
I'm pretty torn about this whole situation because considering this school has only had, I believe, 3 cases since September of last year.
The decision has left some parents scrambling with less than 24 hours to readjust to at-home learning for their kids.
This time frame doesn't give any time to allow to try and adjust for online schooling tomorrow morning.
I thought, since it's only 3 days to go until, April break, they'll stay in school.
We don't have a plan, so we're gonna have to figure something out.
The decision to close schools was welcomed by many teachers, some voicing their concerns before today's announcement, like these teachers at Western Tech.
I have a number of teachers here who are feeling unsafe, and they have exercised their right under the Occupational Health and Safety Act to refuse unsafe work.
They showed up to the school but didn't go inside. This representative from the teachers union says all of this confusion was avoidable.
We've told Toronto Public Health for the last week or so that they need to shut down the schools this week.
Officials in Peel Region did take that advice. Schools there were closed down today, garnering mixed reaction from parents.
I think the kids for their mental health really need to get out and see their other friends and socialize with other kids. And I think the schools, for the most part, are doing a really good job in keeping the virus in check.
I also understand the safety concerns and the worries that teachers may have as well.
It's a bit of a yo-yo effect for the kids, for the teachers.
This decision does give the city a little bit of time because they were already planning to take their spring break next week. So that means kids will be learning from home for the rest of this week. They'll be off all of next week, and that gives the city until April 18th to decide whether or not to send kids back into the classroom. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Turning to vaccinations now, the province has unveiled a new schedule. It's speeding up the timeline for some older Ontarians, but for essential workers who can't do their jobs from home, they won't be able to get a shot until next month. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has this story.
Ontario is currently vaccinating at an average rate of more than 70,000 people per day. The government says it now expects to up that to 100,000 per day for the rest of April. That would mean 3 million doses administered this month. So who's going to get them? The province is adjusting its vaccination timeline. As of tomorrow, people aged 60 plus can book appointments through the provincial system. That's a month ahead of what was previously scheduled. For essential workers, though, vaccinations are still distant. Their timeline is moved up, but by just a couple of weeks, now to start in mid-May. Why not sooner? The Premier says they're working on a plan.
Essential manufacturers, be it the meat packers, the poultry, the manufacturing sector, large companies. You saw what happened in Amazon out in Brampton. We have to start focusing on those areas in the hot spots.
Vaccinations have not been focused on hotspot neighborhoods so far, according to new data from the research group ICES. In Toronto, the highest vaccination rates are in the wealthy neighborhoods of Moore Park and Forest Hill, where the COVID-19 risk is low. The neighborhoods with the lowest vaccination rates? Rexdale and Jane and Finch, where the risk of getting hospitalized with COVID-19 is among the highest in the city. Right now, the only plan the province has for targeting hotspots is vaccinating people aged 50 and up.
There are people under the age of 50 that are getting COVID-19. I mean, I think our data suggests that they're getting variants at a higher rate.
Meanwhile, some public health units are taking matters into their own hands. Niagara announced it's going to start offering vaccines to teachers and education workers next week.
Every time you make a change and to vaccinate all teachers, which is a group that of course we want to get to because they cannot work from home, that then means you're also taking supplies away for some of the seniors too.
All the opposition parties are calling on the government to start vaccinating teachers and other essential workers now. The Premier hinted at an announcement in the next couple of days. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
A new vaccination clinic is up and running in Peel. It is at Brampton's Chris Gibson Recreation Centre near McLaughlin Road and Williams Parkway. Peel now has 7 clinics where people can get a shot. Currently, residents who are in priority population groups and adults over 60 can book an appointment at any of those clinics.
Well, today we were certainly looking at that warm air pushing into southwestern Ontario. Now, temperatures mild in the GTA, but not like we were seeing in London, Chatham, Kent, Sarnia through the Windsor area, where you're getting into the 20s. And there's going to be a repeat on that. We're going to be seeing more of that coming through. We've been seeing some of those scattered showers, a few embedded thunderstorms kind of rolling through. Those will dry up as we go towards the morning hours with a couple of exceptions. And that is that an isolated shower is possible northwest of the city, especially into some of the higher elevations there. But otherwise, it's mostly just cloud cover we're going to be seeing around the Golden Horseshoe until we get into the afternoon, and then we'll get more and more sunshine, and we'll get into more clearing. So becoming a little bit brighter as the day wears on Wednesday, and still seeing that heat in southwestern Ontario. But looking ahead towards Thursday, a nice day there. It's late Thursday. We'll get into some more showers. But tonight, we're going to clear this out 5 degrees, and then tomorrow afternoon, a high of 14. We'll have more on your extended forecast coming up.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Ontario's police watchdog won't bring criminal charges against Peel Police in the death of Ijaz Chaudhry. The 62-year-old father of 4 was shot and killed by an officer last summer. His family had called police to help Chaudhry with a mental health crisis. Our Chris Glover spoke with the family today.
Police said the senior locked in this Mississauga apartment last June was a threat to himself, so they broke down the balcony door and shot him twice in the chest, killing him. Today, the family of the victim, Ijaz Chaudhry, says it's not surprised the SIU is not laying charges.
It was disappointing in the sense that how they came out with it and how much of a cover-up it is. There's zero accountability.
Chaudhry had schizophrenia and was in distress that night, so his family had called for help. Paramedics then called police, and officers negotiated with Chaudhry for 3 hours before moving in. Chaudhry was holding this knife, and after a stun gun and plastic bullets failed to subdue him, he was shot. The SIU director wrote the officer's resort to his firearm was objectively reasonable, necessary, and proportional to the threat posed.
It's an elderly man in his own home, right? He poses no threat to anyone, like anyone at all. And instead of providing safety, instead of trying to help, it took you 8 seconds to just shoot him.
The SIU says systemic issues within Peel Police played a role.
To work with community stakeholders and partners to deal when people are in crisis.
Demonstrators showed their frustration with the SIU's decision today not far from Chaudhry's home. Chaudhry's death, along with a string of recent fatal Peel Police shootings, have sparked months of protests.
I strongly believe that if Ijaz was a white man, it wouldn't have happened. He would be alive. And if it did happen, that he would have gotten a lot more justice than this.
Last May, Chantal Krupka was shot by police while she lay on the ground injured by a police taser. The SIU did charge that officer with assault with a weapon.
And even with that, the officer was charged very minimally. So it's just re-aggravating, I think, and it's just like, I'm angry all over again for this family.
It doesn't matter about if he's brown, black, or any race for that sake, or any religion. He wasn't treated as a human.
While Peel Police says it's now doing an internal review, the Chaudhry family says its hunt for justice is not over. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Technically, it is illegal.
After the break, a Toronto councillor wants the city to establish a designated spot for mourners to scatter ashes of their loved ones. It comes after years of conflict between bereaved families and other users of Bluffers Park in Scarborough. We'll have that story coming up. Welcome back. The province is investing millions of dollars in mental health services to help some of our frontline workers.
Police personnel are among those professionals who are often likely to be exposed to occupational stress situations. They often experience incidents that most of us will never have to face. That is why, in this year's budget, our government announced an investment of $12.5 million over 3 years to provide support for OPP members as they go above and beyond to serve our communities.
The investment will go towards funding 20 mental health support staff to help enhance services for Ontario Provincial Police. This will be available to all OPP members, including uniformed, civilian, and retired officers. The money will also go into hiring 200 more officers to alleviate workplace stress on other staff. There's a push among some councillors at City Hall to allow the scattering of funeral ashes at a designated spot on Toronto's waterfront. It's a ritual practiced by numerous faiths, but is currently not allowed in the city because of potential environmental concerns. But as our John Lancaster reports, other cities in the GTA do allow it.
There are stretches of GTA waterfront where it's easy to spot the signs of a ceremonial ash scattering. Flowers, fruits, and mementos that go with it washed up on shore.
Technically, it is illegal.
In Toronto, mourners aren't allowed to scatter ashes, but it happens anyway. At Bluffers Park, scatterings have sparked tensions among some park users, according to local councillor Gary Crawford.
If it was all picked up and placed properly or taken with you, there wouldn't be an issue, but it's the after effect of leaving those items in the water and around there that's the conflict.
As it stands, city staff have to clean up. Crawford says a designated spot for scatterings might help regulate them and create rules around cleanup. About 40 kilometers east in Pickering, the city designated this spot for funeral scatterings after years of negotiations. It's used almost daily by several faiths and supervised by the nearby Devi Mandir Hindu temple.
Before that, people were coming out without permission and doing rituals themselves. And that became a problem.
The Toronto Region Conservation Authority has raised concerns about the environmental impacts of ceremonial scatterings, but last week suggested it may be time to create a framework to allow it.
We want to make sure that people adhere to the rules and follow them. We also want to respect the diversity of our city. Remember, Toronto prides itself on welcoming people from all over the world.
There's no timeline for possible approval of a designated scattering spot, but the process will have to balance protecting the city's cultural diversity and biodiversity. John Lancaster, CBC News, Toronto.
Remember, if you have a story you'd like us to look into, send us an email, torontotips@cbc.ca. A bit cloudy this evening. The clouds will stick around overnight. Temperatures, though, still double digits, currently 10 degrees downtown. Let's go now to our meteorologist, Colette Kennedy. And Colette, no complaints about the temperatures. We've been pretty spoiled this spring so far.
Thanks, Kelda. Boy, yeah, we're looking at mild conditions. It's just a matter of degrees, literally, where it's even warmer, way above seasonal in southwestern Ontario, and then where it's more moderate that we're seeing elsewhere in southern and eastern Ontario. So, yes, a little bit of wet weather passing through, drying out towards morning, but some of the clouds hanging in. We'll get into an easterly flow of the winds tomorrow, so a little cooler closer to the lakeshore if you're in that easterly breeze, but otherwise more sun into the afternoon on Wednesday. So we'll see the clouds eroding as the hours wear on. Rising temperatures for Thursday, I don't just mean in the southwest, I mean we'll see that heat spreading towards Lake Ontario as well, but it's Thursday night and into Friday we'll see some wet weather returning to the GTA. So daytime highs, look at these extremes, right? You were into the low 20s in Sarnia, by the way, as well, but Windsor 25, 20 for London. It's still above seasonal, above about 10 degrees would be normal for this time of year. Toronto up to that 14 degrees. So a little bit of the wet weather making its way through. Then we get into drying, but still some cloud cover. An isolated shower possible northwest of the city, especially the higher elevations there. We have that risk. And then we'll see clearing as we go into the latter part of the day. And you'll have much more sunshine than that through the day into southwestern Ontario. You'll be seeing that clearing happening earlier. Thursday, the heat pumps a little bit further east, and so as it does, temperatures soaring even into Toronto. We'll get to the upper teens, approaching at least 20. But then in the afternoons, some showers and thunderstorms roll into southwestern Ontario by evening and overnight, making their way into the GTA. And then we'll get some sun in there too, but off and on some showers. Expect those into Friday. Overnight, your temperatures in southwestern Ontario, those are also above seasonal. And look at this, I'm taking you to 26 degrees Windsor for tomorrow, and around the Golden Horseshoe, a little bit different. The fives have it here with some of those isolated showers that are rolling through, and then highs 14 to even 16 degrees. Mark them because you'll see clearing earlier, and you're not really being impacted as much by the lake and those easterly winds. Thursday, 18, 16 Friday. How about the weekend, Kelda? Temperature going back up, at least for Saturday, and at this point looking dry till late in the day.
Thanks so much, Colette.
Nick Nurse gave before the game. He said, not bad. Boucher, count it.
The Raptors in action tonight against the Lakers, looking for their third straight win. But the Lakers built a 34-point lead in the first 20 minutes, and things got heated in the first quarter with Raptors' OG Anunoby getting into an altercation with Lakers player Montrezl Harrell. They were both ejected from the game. Now, Pascal Siakam scored 27 points, 17 of those coming in the fourth quarter, but it wasn't enough. The Lakers cruised to a 110-101 win. Next time, Raps. Stay with us. We'll be back after this break. It was supposed to be a weather report from the spring-like streets of Moscow, but something about the brightly colored microphone cover was too tempting to resist for one furry passerby.
8 плюс 9 градусов. Стоять! Иди сюда! Эй, стой, стой, стоять!
But soon enough, the weather report was back with a co-host who very obligingly posed for the camera and kept the reporter company. Now, no word on who got the fuzzy microphone cover when the live appearance was over. The report, which happened a few days ago, has been a hit on YouTube. No surprises there. And check this out. There are 2 new openings in a volcano in Iceland that erupted nearly 3 weeks ago. This helicopter footage shows one of the new cracks where lava is being released. Hundreds were evacuated from the area. One of the openings was about 500 meters long. Thousands of people have flocked to the volcano to see the rare lava fountains since the eruption last month. It was the first eruption in the area in nearly 800 years. Incredible. That is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.